The SSU, or Sony's Spider-Man Universe, also called the SPUMC, or Sony Pictures Universe of Marvel Characters, also called the Venomverse, is a name for the thing that Sony has been trying since 2018. And with certain exceptions, trying is the operative word. Since Sony owns the movie rights to the character of Spider-Man, as well as characters closely associated with him, but does not own the rest of the Marvel Universe, they figured they'd focus on making a universe dealing with the many supporting characters of Spider-Man's world. A lot of people thought that was a stupid idea right off the bat, and congratulations, you were right. But this was at a time when every studio thought the solution to their problems was to copy the MCU's formula, and given the popularity of the property they had on their hands, it was certainly a smarter decision than Universal's Dark Universe. I'll tell you that right now. More than that, it was a decision that was actually not without precedent. Spider-Man's Tangled Web, originally just called Tangled Web, was an anthology comic book series that covered stories on the periphery of the Spider-Man mythos, dealing with side characters such as villains or ordinary people. I read a lot of these stories back in the day when they came out, and as a kid, it felt like an HBO series about the universe of my favorite superhero, and it very easily could have been. The first issue was written by Preacher and The Boys author Garth Ennis, and as is often the case with Ennis, it's disgusting. The Coming of the Thousand, which takes place over the first 3 issues, tells the story of Carl King, also known as the Thousand. Carl was a bully who made Peter Parker's life a hell before he became Spider-Man. He was also present at the science exhibit the day Peter got bit by the radioactive spider. When Carl followed Peter home from the exhibit, he saw him get his powers and was astounded. So naturally, Carl went back to the exhibit to try to get powers of his own, only to find that the spider was in pretty rough shape. Since it wasn't in the mood to bite him and Carl didn't know how to irradiate another spider, he did the next best thing. He ate it. Yeah, that was his fucking plan. A few days later, Carl's internal organs transform into 1,000 spiders, and he gains the ability to consume other people from the inside out and wear their skin. Thanks, Garth. Thanks. I really needed that in my Spider-Man comics. Overall, the story is good fun, even if it is sick, and the normally superhero-bashing Ennis even gets a chance to display Peter's humanity. Carl is filled with jealous resentment over Peter's life as a superhero, unaware of the tragic difficulties it entails, repeating the mantra, "It should have been me," as he plots to kill Peter and take his place. Even after all that, Peter still feels sympathy for Carl. The illustrations by John McCrae are just a little bit off and weird, and this really helps the tone of the story to come out properly. Spider-Man's Tangled Web was the brainchild of Joe Quesada and Axel Alonso, and it was Alonso's contacts from DC Comics' Vertigo imprint that would allow him to entice such creators as Ennis, Jim Mahfood, Darwin Cook, and others not normally known for working on Spider-Man books. Consisting of just 22 issues, the series ran from June 2001 to March 2003. Although it was short-lived, in my opinion, this is one of the best Spider-Man comic series ever written that's not about Spider-Man. He shows up in multiple stories, but usually just for a cameo. The strong focus on side characters, along with the anthology format, meant that the stories in Tangled Web felt more like traditional pulp stories than superhero comics. Severance Package, written by Greg Rucka, is kind of like Baby's first Hemingway. In it, we follow Tom Cochran, a man working for Wilson Fisk, aka Kingpin. Cochran is in charge of some kind of weapons smuggling operation, but he gets some bad news one night when his coworker Brian calls to inform him that, thanks to Spider-Man, the police have confiscated the weapons and arrested their men. Tom's wife Shelley reminds him that he has worked for Fisk for 20 years and that has to count for something. Tom says that what he did for Fisk yesterday doesn't matter, only what he did today. Tom then receives a call from Fisk, who tells him that a car will be there to pick him up in an hour. Tom showers and gets dressed in his new Armani suit, after which Shelley says it's not fair and that Fisk is going to kill him. Tom simply answers, yeah, he is. Tom says a quiet goodbye to his children and drinks a final cup of coffee with his wife. Shelley suggests that Tom fight back, but he reminds her that they always knew it could end this way. The real reason Tom won't fight back? He has one last request for his boss, and he's hoping it's not too much to ask. Tom is collateral damage, not in the sense that he's some kind of innocent bystander, which he isn't, but in the sense that we know his misfortune was not something Spider-Man had intended. If Spidey knew about this, he would surely intervene and attempt to save Cochran and his family, but he doesn't know. Tom's just one of thousands of criminals that have been on the receiving end of Spider-Man's justice, and we get to see that sometimes the consequences of doing the right thing can be devastating for those who pay the real price. He's a criminal, sure, and he certainly deserves retribution, but you still can't help but feel empathy for him and his family. Severance Package is a fantastic crime story, and one that fleshes out the world of Spider-Man, making it feel more believable. Like I said before, many Tangled Web stories dealt directly with Spider-Man's rogues gallery, like Flowers for Rhino, a not-so-subtle riff on Flowers for Algernon, or I Was a Teenage Frogman, about the son of the failed villain Leapfrog having to deal with his father's embarrassing legacy. Probably my favorite villain-focused issue, though, was Double Shots, written by Ron Zimmerman and penciled by Sean Phillips. Double Shots brings us to the infamous Bar with No Name, an establishment of the Marvel Universe that caters exclusively to supervillains. Here we follow a mysterious man who tells the waitress that he'd heard tales of the bar and was curious to see it for himself. Soon the mysterious man is joined by the Vulture. Vulture complains that the waitress is stuck up because she wouldn't go out with him, and the man suggests that she may be a bit too young for Vulture. Vulture ends up saying that he had a bad week, as he had a run-in with him. Vulture complains that he doesn't fight fair. When the mysterious man points out that Vulture also doesn't fight fair, Vulture asserts that there should be rules, to which the man responds that there are very few rules left in the world. The group is then joined by Alexei Kravinoff, aka Kraven Jr. When Tombstone picks a fight with Kraven Jr., he responds by grabbing his, he grabbed him where you don't want to get grabbed, I'll tell you like that. And if you thought that was childish, they follow it up with Vulture losing his mind when he realizes that the beautiful young waitress, Timber, has gone out with Kraven Jr. Some readers will find this story immature and sexist, but I think that's actually the point of it. First of all, these are villains. They're supposed to be horrible people. They're not role models. More than that, the way they talk about women connects thematically to the ultimate reveal, which I won't spoil here. You will probably end up seeing this reveal coming a mile away, but I still say it's a great ending, as the false bravado of Vulture and Kraven Jr. crumbles in the face of true evil. The final story I want to talk about is Gentleman's Agreement, written by Bruce Jones, with pencils by Lee Weeks. Gentleman's Agreement tells the story of New York City cab driver Charlie Clemens, an ordinary man and divorced father of one. At the beginning of the story, Charlie meets with his doctor, who informs him that he has a malignant brain tumor that cannot be operated on. The doctor tells Charlie that he has a year left to live, if he's lucky, and he'll go blind within 4 weeks. Charlie speaks to another doctor who says that she can operate, but it will cost $500,000, which Charlie obviously doesn't have. After experiencing an excruciating headache, Charlie witnesses a crime and calls someone at the Daily Bugle. Before you know it, the good old Spidey signal shines down and the criminals are taken care of. That's when we realize that Charlie may seem ordinary, but he's got one extraordinary thing about him. Through flashbacks, we learn that Charlie and his son were involved in a car accident during a bank robbery where he ended up learning Spider-Man's identity. Charlie now has Spidey's number and can call him anytime he needs. We see Charlie visiting his ex-wife, and he seems to confide in her somewhat, asking her what she would do if she had a secret she was honor-bound to keep, even if it could be extremely valuable. When Charlie asks her how their son is, and her answer is, "How do you think he is?" we begin to understand that Charlie's concerns may not be entirely for himself, a fact confirmed when we later see Charlie's son in the hospital. Instead of the usual physical conflict, Charlie is going through a moral conflict, trying to make the most difficult decision of his life. Gentleman's Agreement is a story about a father's responsibility to his child, and what happens when that comes up against his responsibility to the greater good, and it may be the best story in the series. Tangled Web is not without its critics, though. The story titled Heartbreaker, written by Daniel Way with pencils and inking by Leandro Fernandez and coloring by Steve Buccellato, has been accused of having racist and homophobic themes. I didn't get a chance to read this one back in the day, but reading it now, I have to say I largely agree. Funnily enough, there appears to have been an attempt on the part of the writer to actually make some kind of point about racism, but the art depicting Tombstone, and some other stuff, is undeniably dated. Luckily, there's a highly successful technique for dealing with this. Don't read it. It's far from the best that Tangled Web has to offer anyway, so it's no loss. But I'll put it like this. If you're a fan of Mark Millar, you might like it. Ironically, Tangled Web's conception of a Spider-Man-centered universe where Spider-Man isn't the protagonist overwhelmingly succeeds, where the modern Sony Pictures fails. Movies like Madam Web, besides just being stupid, tend to build their stories around Spider-Man extremely awkwardly. The word contrived isn't even going to cut it here. We're talking desperate, pathetic shit. If Sony were to take this book now and make an HBO-style series out of it, it could elevate Spider-Man to more adult-oriented fare. Or it could be another Morbius. So, that's, it's fine. It's fine. We can just leave it alone. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. If you want to check out Tangled Web, which I recommend you do, it's been collected in a hardcover omnibus. That's a little bit expensive right now, so honestly I would suggest just buying the old issues individually straight off of eBay. Or maybe even go down to your local comic book shop and show some support by looking through the back issues there. Well, I hope you guys enjoy that one. I was working on a different one having to do with theme parks, but I ended up ordering a book to try to get some more information on that. So waiting for that, I figured I'd just switch over to this topic, which I was already planning anyway. I gotta say, I did not expect the amount of views, and I did not expect the amount of subscribers. Believe me, I appreciate every single view and every single subscriber, and I am blown away by how many that I have right now. And I just want to say thank you so much for every single person who subscribed. Thank you so much for everybody who viewed it, everybody who liked it, who commented. What do you guys think of Tangled Web? Have you ever read it? Are you familiar with it? Is there any stories in it that you like? Or maybe you don't like Tangled Web and you think it's a piece of crap. That's fine too. Let me know what you think in the comments, and give me some ideas. If there are specific things that you'd like me to talk about, please let me know. Comment that as well. And I'm hoping for the next one that comes out, like I said, to be theme park oriented. So I hope you guys enjoy that. And I am Park Narks. Woo!